Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you had a great week. Today we're going to pick up with chapters 19 and 20 of Exodus. All right, let's go. Chapter 19, Arrival at Sinai. Sinai's a mountain. In the third month after their departure from the land of Egypt, on its first day, the Israelites came to the desert of Sinai. After the journey from Rephidim to the desert of Sinai, they pitched camp. While Israel was encamped here in front of the mountain, Moses went up to the mountain to God. Then the Lord called to him and said, "Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, tell the Israelites, you have seen for yourselves how I treated the Egyptians and how I bore you up on eagle's wings and brought you here to myself. Therefore, if you hearken to my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my special possession, dearer to me than all other people, though all the earth is mine. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. That is what you must tell the Israelites." So Moses went and summoned the elders of the people. When he set before them all that the Lord had ordered him to tell them, the people all answered together, "Everything the Lord has said we will do." Then Moses brought back to the Lord the response of the people. The Lord also told him, "I am coming to you in a dense cloud, so that when the people hear me speaking with you, they may always have faith in you also." When Moses then had reported to the Lord the response of the people, the Lord added, "Go to the people and have them sanctify themselves today and tomorrow. Make them wash their garments and be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. Set limits for the people all around the mountain and tell them, take care not to go up on the mountain or to even touch its base. If anyone touches the mountain, he must be put to death. No hand shall touch him. He must be stoned to death or killed with arrows. Such a one, man or beast, must not be allowed to live. Only when the ram's horn resounds may they go up the mountain." Then Moses came down from the mountain to the people and had them sanctify themselves and wash their garments. He warned them, "Be ready for the third day. Have no intercourse with any woman." The Great Theophany. On the morning of the third day, there were peals of thunder and lightning, and a heavy cloud over the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast, so that all the people in the camp trembled. But Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stationed themselves at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was all wrapped in smoke, for the Lord came down upon it in fire. The smoke rose from it as though from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. The trumpet blast grew louder and louder while Moses was speaking, and God answering him with the thunder. When the Lord came down to the top of Mount Sinai, he summoned Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up to him. Then the Lord told Moses, "Go down and warn the people not to break through toward the Lord in order to see him, otherwise many of them will be struck down. The priests, too, who approach the Lord, must sanctify themselves, else he will vent his anger upon them." Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot go up to Mount Sinai, for you yourself warned us to set limits around the mountain to make it sacred." The Lord repeated, "Go down now. Then come up again along with Aaron. But the priests and the people must not break through to come up to the Lord, else he will vent his anger upon them." So Moses went down to the people and told them this. Chapter 20. The 10 Commandments. Then God delivered all these commandments. "I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that place of slavery. You shall not have other gods besides me. You shall not carve idols for yourselves in the shape of anything in the sky above or on the earth below or in the waters beneath the earth. You shall not bow down before them or worship them. For I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, inflicting punishment for their fathers' wickedness on the children of those who hate me, down to the third and fourth generation, but bestowing mercy down to the 1,000th generation on the children of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave unpunished him who takes his name in vain. Remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. 6 days you may labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. No work may be done then either by you or your son or daughter, or your male or female slave, or your beast, or by the alien who lives with you. In 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord has blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, that you may have a long life in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male or female slave, nor his ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to him. The fear of God. When the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the trumpet blasts, and the mountain smoking, they all feared and trembled. So they took up a position much further away, and said to Moses, You speak to us, and we will listen, but let not God speak to us, or we shall die. Moses answered the people, Do not be afraid, for God has come to you only to test you and put his fear upon you, lest you should sin. Still the people remained at a distance, while Moses approached the cloud where God was. The Lord told Moses, Thus shall you speak to the Israelites. You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make anything to rank with me, neither gods nor of silver nor gold shall you make for yourselves. A little context here. It was common in, I believe, the Egyptian culture, and the Israelites, maybe they adopted it. Either way, they would make carvings of gold or silver or bronze of animals that were, represented the various Egyptian gods. The Egyptians had many, many gods. And this is God saying, you are not to do that. You are not to make any. Earlier during the Ten Commandments, when he said, you cannot make a graven image, you can't make statues to these other gods and worship them as the Egyptians had been. They are commanded not to do that. There is one God, and we are to worship him alone. Okay. An altar of earth you shall make for me, and upon it you shall sacrifice your holocausts and peace offerings, your sheep and your oxen. In whatever place I choose for the remembrance of my name, I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar of stone for me, do not build it of cut stone, for by putting a tool to it you desiccate it. You shall not go up by steps to my altar, on which you must not be indecently uncovered. So I'm going to stop reading there because I want to talk about the Ten Commandments a little bit. Because what they are is they are the foundation for what is commonly referred to as the law. Have you ever heard in a sermon, we are not under the law, we are under grace? Well, this is the law, the foundation for it. That is the way that God prescribed for the Israelites to live. That is how they had to live to find favor with him. And as we go forward next week and then the weeks coming, we'll get more details about what that entails. How it's elaborate, it's very specific. And it's a good reminder that we are very fortunate to live in a post-Jesus time because we are under grace. The law, it's not that the law doesn't matter anymore. It's just that we are not saved by living a perfect life according to the law. So let's talk about them a little bit. I'm the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me. Kind of talked about that already. Many cultures, if you've learned about, the Romans, they had the Greeks, the Romans, they had all their mythology and all their different gods, your Zeus or Jupiter. That's not uncommon. Most cultures prior to this time had many gods that they believed in. This is God, the one God, saying, no, you are not to do that. I'm it. I created the heavens and the earth. I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Don't worship gods besides me. Don't make a graven image. Same thing. Don't make statues to these other gods and worship them. Do not take the Lord's name in vain. That's kind of self-explanatory. There are many ways that it's bigger and smaller ways that it's not at all uncommon in our culture that we do use the Lord's name in vain in anger, and we are not to do that. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. You couldn't work on the seventh day. There's the concept that the Sabbath was made for us, not us for the Sabbath. I think it's a good thing to pick a day and use that to worship the Lord, but in this time during the law, you could not work. And even in modern In our modern day, if you are practicing the Jewish faith, you aren't to work on Sunday. At least that's my understanding. That still holds. 5 is always a fun one. Honor thy father and mother. That means listen to your parents, honor them. But it's beyond that. It's more than just listening to them. It's doing things that they would find honorable. It's living in a way that reflects well upon them. 6, I didn't want to jump into other versions of the Bible just for this one word in this case, but it says, thou shalt not kill. Other translations say murder. That is it's a little distinction. It does change it slightly, the implications. But so thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Again, when you're in a married relationship, that's the only person. You shouldn't be putting other people above your spouse. Thou shalt not steal. Again, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. In this case, your neighbor isn't just the person who lives right next to you. And bearing false witness is don't lie. It's not just in a court scenario where you're like a witness in a prosecution or something. No, it's don't lie. You aren't to lie. And finally, don't covet. There's a long list of what not to covet of your neighbors, but it just means don't be jealous of what somebody else has. Don't sit there getting angry or frustrated because somebody has something that you seem to not have. So that's hard to do. These are all hard to do. I'm very grateful that I live in a post-Jesus world where the law is important. It's where we came from. It's good to keep in mind. These are basic morals that we live by anyway. Not completely, but it gives a framework of our society. But we don't get to heaven. We don't find favor with the Lord simply by living under this law. We find favor with the Lord by accepting his son. Faith without works is dead, but we are saved by grace through faith. So we're not going to get into that yet. We'll go more into detail there as we get to the New Testament, but I did want to break down 10 Commandments a little bit more and just kind of lead into the next few weeks because it does get kind of heavy and tedious. I was thinking about skipping over parts of it, but we're not going to do that. I think it's really important for us to really think about what the law was and what our ancestors how they had to live in order to find favor with the Lord, to give us a greater appreciation of what it was that Christ did for us. Because no one can live perfectly besides Jesus. So that's why we're gonna get into it. It's kind of getting into the weeds, but if you'll stick with me, it'll hopefully give you a greater appreciation as well. Hey, editing here on the balcony at the beach because why not? I wanted to throw in some context really quickly. I wanted to make sure it didn't sound like we don't have to follow the rules anymore because we're living, in a post-Jesus world. Because the Mosaic Law sounds a lot like a bunch of really specific rules, and now we just don't have to follow them. And that's not it at all, because the nuance, there's a lot of nuance, but a big part of it is that our salvation, it does not completely hinge upon us perfectly following Mosaic Law to the letter. There's more to it than that. Our salvation hinges on Christ's death and resurrection, but that doesn't mean we can just do whatever we want. I wanted to make sure I clarified that. For instance, I have my King James with me, so we're in a different version of the Bible, but we are in John, that's the New Testament. This is Jesus speaking. John chapter 15, verses 10 through 14. If ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments, and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. So again, it's not that we just can do whatever we want, whatever. No, we still need to abide by God's commandments, if you will. But our salvation doesn't completely hinge upon us following Mosaic law, which we'll expand into in the next few weeks perfectly, because no man is perfect. Okay, back to it. Have a great week. Bye, guys. Okay, let's bow our heads and say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.